Imagine going into battle and immediately getting your attack decreased by 50% and your defense also decreased by 50%. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite champions and debuffers in Raid Shadow Legends. Hi, I'm Brix5D and this is a series where I go over some of the champions that have helped me come so far in Raid Shadow Legends. Today I'm focusing on Stag Knight. He's a champion that is from the Banner Lords faction, and you can find him right here. He's an epic champion that is kind of easy to get. It's not one of those champions that is you go a year without getting. This is attainable for a lot of people. So if you're watching this video, you probably have a Stag Knight and you're looking for how to build him, and also we'll talk about his masteries and where you use him the best. On his A1, he has an ability which hits 2 times. Each of the hits has a chance of placing a decreased speed debuff on the enemy. All his skills are based on attack, so he's an attack-based champion. So that doesn't mean you build him all attack. You need him to survive to do his work in your teams. We'll look at the builds later, but that's one of the skills that he brings to the team. It's especially useful for bosses when you go against some bosses in, let's say, the Fire Knight, who is rushing to take his turn, but when you place a decreased speed on him, he kind of slows down before he takes a turn. Also for waves, trash waves, you can decrease their speed. This ability does a lot of damage. I've seen this ability one-shot some enemies who are not built with a lot of defense. So if you put some attack on him and crit damage, this ability will take some people down if they are not careful, especially when it crits. On his A2, he has a skill that places decrease defense and decrease attack. This is the bread and butter of his ability. He's one of the fewest champions in the game that can do this on a very low cooldown, which is a 3-turn cooldown. And since he doesn't have a lot of abilities, he circles around to this one always. So he makes sure decrease defense and decrease attack is always on the enemy, especially bosses, because those are the bosses that hit you very hard if their attack is not decreased by 50%. In your arena, this will also come in handy. So if you go second, you're dead. But if you go first, you can kind of reduce their attack and do your damage. Your nukers can go in second. For his passive, which is not really useful, I don't think this passive is useful, it's nothing special. It places a increased accuracy buff on a random ally who misses his debuff. Let's say my ally tries to place a stun, and then due to a low accuracy the stun did not place. That ally will automatically gain a 50% increased accuracy from Stag Knight, which is just a passive that occurs. The problem with this ability or this passive is that the ally who is gaining this increased accuracy has already expended their debuff, so they have to wait either 2 turns or 3 turns before they can use it, while this increased accuracy only lasts for 1 turn. So I just used my debuff and I didn't land it, and now you're giving me increased accuracy. I don't have a debuff to go next again. So that's why I don't think this ability makes any sense. It should be at least for 2 or 3 turns before it to make a lot of sense in a lot of battles, to increase your accuracy of your allies, and then when they take their next turn in 2 or 3 turns, they have this ability to use. Of course, you say, what about allies that have other abilities that they also need to place debuff? It is very rare for you to find champions in Raid Shadow Legends that would prioritize their weaker debuffs. They'll always prioritize their most useful debuff in battle. So if you're getting this ability when you want to place your second debuff, which is not that useful in battle, it makes no sense. So that's what I wanted to say about this. He has a base speed of 107, which is quite impressive and useful. It's not one of those ones that have base speed of 96. That means he can ramp up his speed without expending too much on speed substats. His HP is also really impressive. So it's not a champion that goes down in battle the first. He's not usually the first. I have seen him in battles where arbiter even goes down before him. Of course, the nukers will always go down, but he's not tanky because his defense is just 1k. So you can build a lot of defense and HP on this champion, so he stays alive longer. That's if you don't want to go to speed, you don't want to go the attack route. That's his abilities, just 2 main abilities and 1 passive. Let's see how I built him, and we'll talk about his artifacts and the ideal set you need for this champion. Here is my Stag Knight. I pulled this champion in my first month of playing this game, and this is the build I've had on him all this time. I put him in 2-piece speed set and 1-piece HP or life set, I think. You might think, why? I built him to be speed tuned with my arbiter. I built my Stag Knight to be speed tuned because my arbiter is really fast. I needed Stag Knight to have a 2-piece speed set to reach her speeds for arena and a lot of other places. So that is why I put in 2 speed sets. Now, what other sets in the game can you use on your Stag Knight? Lifesteal set is really good for this champion. Let me go through some of them. You might be asking, lifesteal, isn't that for clan boss? No, there are many other places in the game that you can benefit from having lifesteal on your champion, and Stag Knight is a good candidate for that, so he stays alive longer to do damage. Another amazing set for him is shield sets. I've seen other videos where I think Ash also put his Stag Knight in a shield set. I think this is an awesome choice also for Stag Knight, because if your champions don't go first, whether you're talking about in the arena or in some other dungeons, you don't die immediately. Your shield sets, based on his base HP, which is quite large, he's able to place a 15%, 30% shield set, I mean, on all your allies. So that's a lot of healing or a lot of health or shield for them to stay alive and do their damage if they don't go first. So this is a good set for him, but I didn't have a lot of shield set like this when I built mine. All I wanted from him was go first, speed, and do your damage. Another awesome set, especially if you're a beginner player, you have access to this set if you've been farming the Doom Tower and also doing your arena runs and faction wars also, I mean. So this is accuracy set. Since Stag Knight, you see from his skills, has a need to place debuffs, decrease attack and decrease defense. He needs accuracy to do this. You might think, how much accuracy do you need? It depends on the stage. So at least 10 accuracy per stage for dungeons. So if you're at dungeon level 20, that means you need about 200 accuracy for Stag Knight. So this is a perfect set for him because it also comes with a 5% speed on this set. So if you can have a lot of this is the best one you can get if you're a new player. But for me, I went with speed set and this. This set is not quite good. I wouldn't advise anybody to use this set because the fight really doesn't last long enough for him to benefit from this 3% healing that will come from this. The HP did help me a lot, so he doesn't get targeted and all that. My nukers get targeted because their HP is by default very, very low. So for my banner, I went with accuracy. I do have a better accuracy set that I could actually place on him. I found it before making this video, one that has speed. I think I saw it here, something like this. But I did not want to regear this champion because it's one of those champions you build once and you use him like that the entire game. You don't need to regear him based on where you're taking him. You build him from one content in the game, he works that same way for all other contents in the game, except for what do you call this? What do you call this boss now? Let me see the name. I'm forgetting the name. Clan Boss, yes. Except for Clan Boss, where you always have to build your champions specially for Clan Boss. Where's my Stag Knight again? Now, Stag Knight is always compared with other debuffers. I'll mention some names because I just saw him right now. Tayrel. He's always compared with Tayrel. And he's also compared with War Maiden, who I have in my vault. Where is she? Right there. For decreased defense, Tayrel wins these other champions I just called out right now. It's not a fair one to call out War Maiden because that's what most people use until they get a Tayrel or a Stag Knight. But Tayrel versus Stag Knight, I think Stag Knight wins because while they both have similar abilities, Tayrel does a little bit more because of his decreased turn meter. He doesn't come with his own speed. This is not a video about Tayrel. I just need to make it clear that Tayrel has a longer cooldown on his decreased defense skill. You see, it's a 4-turn one, while Stag Knight, his own is a 3-turn skill. So that's the main difference between them. And in most fights that go on for long, especially in Doom Tower or Faction Wars, Stag Knight will always come into your teams, even if I have both of them, except it's a negative affinity. That's when Tayrel comes in and takes the role. Also, I just dissed War Maiden a little bit, but if it's a negative affinity for both of them, of course, War Maiden with her force affinity will also come in and help against magic bosses who Stag Knight is weak against. Alright, for the last thing I need to show you is my Masteries. Now, before I open it, remember, you're free to build your Masteries any way you want. Whether you want to go a defense tree, an offense tree, make sure you look through the skills before you select them. Don't just blindly copy anything that content creators put out as Masteries. I know I used to do that, but now I read it. This is a very old Mastery tree. All I wanted was for my Stag Knight to do some damage with crit rate, crit damage, and coming down here to War Master. He does 2 hits, so he's a War Master candidate, not a Giant Slayer candidate. And this does a lot of damage. The next thing I wanted from him was for his accuracy to be a little bit high, so his decreased defense and decreased attack always lands. Especially now that we have dungeons going up to level 25. You need some more accuracy than just getting it from your artifacts if you want to place decreased attack and decreased defense on those bosses and that have high resist and high levels in the Doom Tower or dungeon higher stages. Because I was running speed sets, that's why I got this Law of Steel. And another mastery that is kind of important for him is this one that has a 30% chance to extend the duration of any debuff. So imagine placing decreased attack for 2 turns, then it's going on for 3 turns. So that is awesome. He has a 30% chance of extending it. It happens a lot of the times. And when I used to use him for some dungeon runs, his A1, which he uses a lot, remember he has only 2 skills. His A1 hit on every person will decrease their turn meter, while he also places their his decreased speed. So that's my Stag Knight Masteries. You can choose to come down the defense tree and get this one if you use Stag Knight in the clan boss. Remember, he's not a defense-based champion, so for clan boss, you need to up his defense a lot. A lot of people don't usually use him in clan boss because they have better champions that can do decreased defense. And Weaken, example of that champion that does it better for clan boss is Razen. But if you're a new player who hasn't gotten to that stage where you get Razen yet, Stag Knight will serve perfectly. Now, I wouldn't use Razen in most dungeon because his decreased defense is a one hitter, like he just focuses, targets one person. Why? Stag Knight's decreased defense is an AOE effect. That's the main difference between those two debuffers. I don't think there's anything else we're missing about this champion. One more thing, okay, where will you use him? Where he shines. I will not do any runs because I don't want the video to go long, but I'll just let you know that Stag Knight is in basically all my teams. I don't know if I have him here for 20. Yes, that's Stag Knight right there. So I have in every team I go. I don't know if I'm doing 20 here. Yes, decrease defense. So you can see him even between a negative affinity boss. Right now you can see that yes, this is a negative affinity, but for Dragon I do not run 20. I run this stage. So this is what I run for Dragon. So even against a negative affinity boss, he can sometimes place his decrease attack and decrease defense, although he has that odd chance of getting a weak hit. So consider that. Do I have him against the Fire Knight? Now I do not use him for Spider, because Spider all I need is bonds. Yes, I do have him against the Fire Knight also. I use my Stag Knight everywhere, and I don't think there is any other champion that can replace him in my team. For spiders, Spider 20. See, I don't need him here because this is where Tayrel comes in, because Tayrel just hits only the spider. I don't need to kill the spiderlings. If I bring Spider and Stag Knight into this run, Stag Knight will hit the spiderlings, and I need them to be alive for my HP bond champions to bond them slowly to death, so each bond can do damage. So that is where I use my Tayrel. Of course, Doom Tower, yes. For the faction wars, for he has helped me reach Banner Lord 56. There are a few Banner Lords that does a lot of damage, but he survives. They all are weak. They have low HP and low defenses, but his HP and defense is able to survive most of the battles in the Banner Lord faction crypt. So that's one good thing about him, though his damage is not as good as those ones that are low. So I wouldn't show you the Doom Tower because that's an entirely different story altogether. That's an optional stage in the game. He's not going to help you in campaign much, except you don't have any other person. By now you might be out of campaign. War Maiden is the best person I used for campaign. So especially except you're doing nightmare runs, and then he comes in and, you know, decrease their attack. That's my build for Stag Knight, and I don't know if you have any other questions about him, let me know in the comments. For my AI logs, I didn't show that. If I show I don't think there's any other thing you need to lock on his abilities, whether you're using him in any part of these stages. Let's see. AI setups. My Stag Knight doesn't have any of his abilities locked out because I want him doing all his abilities. See, so you don't need to lock out any of his abilities in the AI. Alright, my name is Brix5D. Let me know what champion you want me to talk about next that you're thinking of building, or you don't know if they are good or not. I have a Discord if you have screenshots for me, or if you have more clarifications about any of these champion builds I do in these videos. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out. Please do like and subscribe.